This week, we're going to talk a little bit about those new Intel chips and some ups and downs, some wins and losses for Apple. Let's go ahead together as a people and check it out. So we are here on another sensational Saturday, and you know what else is sensational? This new table. That's not new. It's actually an old table that I had that I wasn't using, but it is now the official Mike Text It Out table, even though you can see like only half of it in the video, but that's fine because we're not here to talk about the table. We're here to talk about tech news and bring that news to the table. And speaking of bringing it to the table, you know what's on the table? My iPhone. And you know what's annoying to use with an iPhone? A face mask. But luckily, it looks like Apple is looking to make it a little bit easier to unlock your phone if you have a face mask on. So right now, currently, as it stands, if Face ID fails, you have to wait for it to fail, and then it'll allow you to put your passcode in. But Apple, in the next couple of weeks, is going to release an update that'll allow you to just put your passcode in immediately. Like you can just swipe and it'll give you the option to put your passcode in, which will alleviate a lot of the annoyances of waiting for Face ID to fail and then waiting for the passcode to come up and then putting your passcode in. Obviously, with everything going on, if people are out and about and they have their phones and they have a face mask on, it's almost like you're being punished. Like you're being punished for wearing the mask. And that's not how it should be, Apple. We should all be free. We should all be expressing ourselves and showing love. So show us some love with this update and make it easier to unlock your phone with a face mask on. Come on. Come on. Speaking of Apple, it looks like Apple's going to be paying up $18 million to settle a lawsuit where users claimed on iOS 6 that they purposely broke FaceTime to kind of force people to upgrade. In reality, they were having some issues with the previous company they were using for FaceTime for their servers, and they're in the process of switching to peer-to-peer, which happened in iOS 7. So for a while on the iPhone 4 and 4S, FaceTime was broke, y'all. I don't know what to say. It was broke. And the way that users are seeing it is Apple did this on purpose to try to get them to upgrade to a new phone, which I honestly don't think it was done on purpose, but you can kind of see the value proposition there. You can kind of see how that's a good argument. I don't know, but they paying up though. I mean, 18 million, while it is a lot of money, it's really not a lot of money for Apple, but it's probably going to be cheaper for them to pay that 18 million than to go to court. So overall, the payout, they're estimating is probably going to be around $3 per person. So it's not like they're even getting a lot of money out of it. It was kind of like, well, we'll just settle it and pay this money versus going to court, because it might have cost them more money even if they went to court and didn't end up paying anything. They might have still ended up paying more money just because of all the fees and everything. So let me know how you feel about it if Apple did this on purpose to sabotage its users, trick them into buying a new phone. And while we attempt to find the truth in our last story, maybe you need to find some gadgets around your house. Maybe you have a tile. Well, you're in luck if you have Comcast cable, because now they're going to have functionality in their cable boxes to let you ping your tiles. So now if you lose something and you have the little tile finders attached to it, you can ping it directly from your cable box. My only question is, who still has a cable box and who's still paying that much money for cable when there's all these streaming options available? I mean, if you are, that's fine, because some people do find value in cable, but it just seems like this is kind of a weird pairing. Like I view Tile as like a new and upcoming thing. They're not that new, but you know, it's future technology, it's forward thinking, whereas like cable is like kind of slowly dying out. So it's a cool feature, I guess, to have if you have a cable box. It's not like it costs you anything. Like, how much easier is this going to be to use than just going on my phone and searching for my lost tile? I don't have any tile finders personally. If I did, I figured it'd probably be easier to do it on the phone than it would be to do it with your cable box, because from my experience, whenever they try to add new features to cable boxes, it's always terrible. But if you're on Comcast and you teched it out, let me know how it is, because I don't live that lifestyle no more. That cable life. Can't do it. Speaking of can't do it, Valve, they couldn't do it anymore. They couldn't stomach it. They broke up with Apple, at least the VR side. So Valve came out and said that Steam VR is no longer supported on macOS. Apparently it never took off, and when it comes to macOS and gaming, it's almost like not a thing. Like, it's literally almost not a thing. Like there's very few games on macOS to begin with, and then also the graphics cards that you need to run VR, it's just not really happening on most Macs. Like most of them aren't going to meet the minimum specifications to run VR games. So it makes sense because Steam VR is mostly a gaming focused VR platform. So as far as like on an Apple computer, like what are you really going to do up there? Because I mean, you can try on a MacBook Pro. First of all, it's going to catch on fire. Second of all, the graphics cards is not good enough. Apple's graphics are more so focused on productivity and not gaming. Like maybe you could get by if you had a Mac Pro, but even the RX 580 is like low on the list of supported graphics cards. I don't even know if it's one of the ones that's supported for VR, honestly, off the top of my head. But graphics wise, it ain't popping off like that, y'all. So it makes sense. Valve, RIP, Steam VR on Apple platform that no one was probably using anyway. And in our final story, Intel's back in the news again, hopefully for good reasons, because they announced their 10th generation processors, the Core 10 series. The names are weird. The 10900K and the 10700K. Like, why didn't you just roll back over? This is just it's getting weird. Intel, like, we can't keep doing this with the naming. But either way, they're looking to bring it to AMD, who's kind of been like the budget leader, because honestly, their processors for price to performance are really good. I have a 3700X because I wanted something that I could still game on, and it's more than good enough to do that. And then productivity wise, it's like up there with the 9900K, which was like a $500 processor, and I paid $300 for it. So as far as me and productivity, like it's not as good, but it's almost as good, and it does beat it in some applications. So I'm like, for $200 less, and I'm mainly looking at productivity, and it's more than good enough for games, like heck yes, it's a good deal. I'm not gonna go too in depth with the spec, but their big push this time is the frequency. So 5.3 gigahertz on a single core boost clock. So that's basically like your boost clock is, if everything's good and dandy with your cooling, then you have your base clock, which I believe for like the 900K is 3.7 gigahertz, but it can boost on a single core up to 5.3. So it's like for a short time, when you need that extra performance, it can go up to that speed. As long as you have a cooler that's good enough to support it, then you might be boosting. Like, I don't know, you might be getting some crazy performance for a few seconds when you really need it. That's how a boost works. So that's what they're pushing off on. The processors haven't really gone out for actual testing. It's just basically what Intel has given us. But one of the most interesting things that I took away from it personally was the Core i7 10700K. It's pretty much on paper the same as the 9900K, which used to be like around a $500 processor, for $374. And gaming wise, that was probably the best processor to get. It did get a little bit more frames than what AMD had competing at, even at that price point as far as gaming. So like the Tom's Hardware article said, this might be like the new go-to processor for people that want like the absolute most gaming performance, where it makes sense budget wise if it is on par with the 9900K. So they're really bringing down those prices to try to compete. So we'll have to see how they benchmark and how they compare against the AMD counterparts to see if it's actually worth the money. So until like they get out there to people and they test them, because I can't test them, I don't get those processors. I love to one day be sent processors to be able to test, but we'll have to see how they stack up. As far as the socket, it's gonna be a new socket, y'all. So if you are on the 9th gen Intel processors, you'd have to get a new motherboard to upgrade. I think that part of it kind of sucks, and Intel might be leaving some money on the table. Like for instance, when I built my computer, when I decided to switch over to Ryzen, I started off with the Ryzen 5 2600, and I had that for almost a year, and then decided I was gonna get the 3700X when I really need that extra productivity boost. But I was able to do that because I was able to keep my motherboard, and that was a big factor in me upgrading. If I would have had to spend the extra money for the motherboard, I probably wouldn't have upgraded. So I think that there are people out there that maybe would have bought a Core i5 last generation, and you know, that maybe they have some extra money now, like, oh, I'm gonna just get this new processor and put it on my motherboard. And now those people are like, well, I had to buy this and a new motherboard. That's an extra $100 to $200 tacked onto the price. I'm good. I'm not gonna buy the new Intel processor. So I do think that they should support their CPU sockets for at least a couple generations. That might incentivize people to upgrade, and they might get more sales from it. Who knows? But the one thing that I know is I'm bringing this video to a conclusion. But if you enjoyed it, make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and always do at least 2 things at the same time. We're out.